The void remembers everything. In the forgotten, dust-choked corners of the Perseus Arm, where ancient warnings kept even the boldest explorers at bay, something stirred after 10,000 years of absolute silence. This was Krithian space now. The Krithian ascendancy ruled the galaxy, their magnificent bioluminescent ships pulsing through the cosmos like giant ethereal jellyfish. Their empire was vast, a web of 70 star systems, all managed with cold, calculated precision. At the heart of this empire, aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion, High Chancellor Vexnar stood within the neural command chamber. His 4 crystalline eyes reflected the swirling data streams that flowed around him like a living river. The Krithians had long since evolved beyond simple sight. Their consciousness interfaced directly with their technology. They perceived reality not just in light, but in quantum probabilities, in the ripple of gravitational waves, in the very fabric of space-time itself. Suddenly, a voice, carrying the harmonic resonance typical of the science cast, broke the quiet hum. "Chancellor, the probe network has detected something unusual." Science Coordinator Ziftal materialized beside him, her translucent form shimmering with a visible aura of concern. "Unusual how?" Vexnar's attention shifted, his mind parsing the incoming data flows faster than any purely organic brain could ever hope to manage. "Energy signatures from Sector 447 Gamma," Zeftal replied, her tone grave. "The quarantine zone." The Chancellor's bioluminescent patterns flickered, an involuntary display of disturbance. "Sector 447 Gamma. Sealed for millennia. Sealed since the Purge Wars. Ancient history spoke of a species so violent, so relentlessly aggressive, that they nearly extinguished all galactic civilization before they themselves were wiped out. The humans. A barbaric, primitive race who built weapons instead of art, who chose endless conflict over peaceful communion. "Show me the readings," Vexnar commanded. The neural chamber instantly transformed, dissolving into a massive, 3-dimensional holographic map of the quarantine zone. At its very heart, a colossal energy bloom pulsed like a cosmic heartbeat. The signature was all wrong, fundamentally incompatible with any modern galactic technology. It was ancient, raw, and powerful. "This matches the archival data from the final battle," Zeftal said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "From just before our ancestors drove them to extinction." "Impossible," Vexnar retorted. "We sterilized their worlds ourselves. 37 planetary systems reduced to radioactive dust. No species could possibly survive that." But even as the words formed in his consciousness, a tendril of doubt, cold and alien, crept through his quantum senses. The humans had always been different. They didn't just fight. They adapted. They learned from their mistakes. They improved with every single defeat, coming back stronger, smarter, and deadlier. They were a virus that refused to be cured. Far across the galaxy, in the asteroid-strewn mining colonies of the Tertius Belt, another crisis was unfolding. Commander Brenther of the Krithian Defense Fleet was investigating a series of missing supply ships. 3 massive vessels had vanished without a trace in the past rotation. No wreckage, no debris, no distress signals. Just empty space where they should have been. "Run another full-spectrum scan of the shipping lanes," Brenther ordered his crew aboard his vessel, the Righteous Path. His warship bristled with advanced bioweapons, capable of dissolving entire asteroid fields into primordial soup. Yet, something about this whole situation made his combat instincts, honed over centuries of service, scream silent warnings into his mind. The scanner operator, a young Krithian named Pixel, suddenly stiffened. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple contacts. They just appeared on the sensors." "Appeared?" Brenther's form shifted through a spectrum of colors indicating deep concern. "From where?" "Unknown, sir. They weren't there a moment ago, and now they are. 6 vessels, configuration unknown. They're not broadcasting any identification codes. not even pirate transponders. Brenther moved swiftly to the main tactical display. The contacts were unlike anything in the entire Crithian database. They were angular, brutal in their design, forged from metal, not grown from living biomatter. "Hail them," he commanded. "Standard greeting protocols. Let's see who we're dealing with." For a long, tense moment, there was only silence. Then, the communications array crackled to life. The language was guttural, harsh, and unknown, but the ship's translation matrices worked frantically to decode it. "This is Captain Reeves of the UNSC Retribution. You are in violation of territorial boundaries established by the United Nations of Terra. Power down your weapons and prepare for inspection." The bridge of the righteous path went silent. United Nations of Terra, an ancient name for the governing body of Earth, a name that shouldn't exist, a name that hadn't been heard in the galaxy for 10,000 years. Brenther fought to keep his bioluminescence calm, projecting an image of authority despite the chaos of thoughts racing through his mind. "This is Commander Brenther of the Crithian Defense Fleet," he responded. "The territorial claim you reference is 10,000 years outdated. Earth and all human colonies were destroyed in the Purge Wars. Identify yourselves properly, or you will be designated as hostile. Contacts." The response came back much faster this time. The translated tone was chilling. It was cold, brutally controlled, and dripping with a danger that resonated deep within Brenther's being. "Commander, Earth was never destroyed. We simply left. We took our chances in the dark between galaxies, in the vast emptiness where your ancestors couldn't follow. We've been watching you. We've been building. And now, after 10,000 years of exile, humanity has returned to reclaim what was stolen from us." Without any further warning, the 6 contacts broke formation, accelerating at impossible speeds. The righteous path, as advanced sensors, struggled to track them as they moved with a terrifying precision that defied all Crithian understanding of physics. "Evasive maneuvers," Brenther commanded, his voice echoing through the ship's neural network. But it was too late. The humans were already firing. They weren't using energy weapons, not biotoxins or plasma cannons. They were firing solid projectiles. Metal slugs, accelerated to relativistic speeds. It was primitive, it was brutal, and it was devastatingly effective. The first round punched through the righteous path's organic hull as if it were tissue paper. The sheer kinetic energy vaporized entire internal chambers and the crew members within them in a flash of light and heat. Alarms shrieked across every sensory spectrum as the ship reeled from the impact. "Return fire. All weapons. Full saturation," Brenther roared. The Crithian ship unleashed its formidable arsenal, streams of flesh-dissolving compounds and neural disruptors that could shut down the nervous system of an entire fleet. But the human ships dodged. They twisted. They moved like a pack of predators, playing with wounded prey. When the Crithian bioweapons did manage to connect, they splashed harmlessly against strange, angular armor that seemed specifically designed to resist and neutralize their organic attacks. A horrifying realization dawned on Brenther. "They knew," he broadcast to his dying crew. "They knew exactly what weapons we'd use. They've spent millennia preparing for this." Another impact rocked the ship, even more catastrophic than the first. Then another. The righteous path was dying. Its central biomatrix was failing, its crew's consciousnesses fragmenting and fading into the void. With his last ounce of strength, Brenther issued one final command. "Send an emergency transmission," he gasped, his own form flickering as his life signs faded. "To High Chancellor Vexinar. Tell him the humans survived. Tell him they're coming. Tell him we were wrong about everything." The transmission burst across faster-than-light channels, a final, desperate cry into the darkness. A moment later, the righteous path's core detonated, adding one more brief, silent star to the eternal night. Back on the Eternal Dominion, High Chancellor Vexnar received the message. And for the first time in his long existence, he felt something his species had forgotten over 10 millennia of unchallenged, absolute dominance. He felt fear. The humans weren't just back. They were ready. They were vengeful. And the galaxy was about to get a violent reminder of why even the ancient, mighty Crithians had needed every single species' combined might to drive them away the first time. Out in the deep, silent darkness of the Perseus Arm, more energy signatures flared to life. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. An entire fleet, forged in exile, that had waited patiently in the dark, building, planning, preparing for the day they would return to a galaxy that thought them long extinct. The age of Crithian dominance was over. The age of human vengeance had just begun. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tailies from the edge of the galaxy. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Crithian High Council convened in an emergency session. Thousands of their most brilliant minds linked together in the Grand Communion Chamber, a space that was as much quantum field as it was physical reality. Thoughts flashed between them at the speed of light, all circling a single, terrifying question. How do you fight ghosts that have returned from the dead? High Chancellor Vexnar projected the latest tactical data into their shared consciousness. He showed them the destruction of the righteous path, a powerful Crithian outpost. He revealed the energy signatures, multiplying across the Perseus Arm like a virus. And most disturbing of all, he played the intercepted human transmissions. They spoke of fleets, of colonies, of an entire civilization that had somehow survived 10,000 years in the desolate void between galaxies. War Coordinator Thexrim's thoughts burned with aggression. We must strike immediately. Send the Grand Armada to the Perseus Arm and sterilize every cubic meter of space. Whatever they've built out there, we will reduce it to atoms. You propose the same strategy that failed our ancestors, countered Diplomatic Minister Salvina, her thoughts laced with caution. The humans were driven away precisely because they adapted to every tactic we used. 10,000 years in exile would have given them time to prepare for anything we might throw at them. Then what do you suggest? X-Rim retorted. That we negotiate with a species we tried to exterminate? Before Salvina could respond, the chamber's sensors screamed an alarm. 6 human vessels had just appeared in real space at the very edge of the Crithian home system. 6 ships against the most heavily defended star system in the entire galaxy. A fortress protected by 3 defense fleets and orbital weapons platforms that could crack planets. They're testing us, Vexnar realized instantly. Measuring our response time, our weapons range, our tactics. Then let's give them something to measure, Vexrim growled, already transmitting combat orders to the defense fleets. Admiral Chrysons commanded the first defense fleet from the bridge of his massive bioship, the Unyielding Truth. His force of 200 vessels had never faced a real threat in his lifetime. Pirate raids, yes. Minor political skirmishes, occasionally. But nothing like this. All ships, combat formation Delta, he ordered, his voice calm and steady. Surround and overwhelm. Standard engagement protocols. The Crithian fleet moved with practiced, deadly efficiency. Their bioluminescent hulls shifted and swirled, creating intricate patterns of coordination as they encircled the 6 small human vessels. At this range, their legendary bioweapons would be inescapable. The humans would dissolve, their ships would be consumed, and this audacious challenge would end before it truly began. Fire. The space between the fleets erupted. Streams of organic weaponry surged forward, millions of microscopic organisms designed to eat through any known material. Neural disruptors that could fry electronic systems from light years away, and gravitational ripples that could crush starship hulls like paper. The human ships didn't dodge. They didn't even try to evade. They simply activated their shields. But these weren't energy shields as the Crithians understood them. These were something different, something impossible. Powerful electromagnetic fields vaporized the bioweapons before they could make contact. Acoustic dampeners completely neutralized the neural disruptors, and advanced gravitational countermeasures bent space itself around their hulls, rendering the ripples harmless. Admiral Chrysons watched in stunned disbelief as every weapon in his formidable arsenal splashed uselessly against these impossible defenses. Then the humans returned fire. They used railguns, missiles, lasers, plasma cannons. By galactic standards, these were primitive, almost archaic weapons. But they were devastatingly effective against bioships that had evolved over millennia to resist organic threats, not raw kinetic force. The first salvo tore through 12 Crithian vessels, their organic hulls offering no protection whatsoever against solid metal slugs moving at a fraction of light speed. "Adapt our formation," Chrysons commanded, his composure cracking. Smaller targets, evasive patterns. But it was too late. The humans had already anticipated this. Their targeting systems tracked every single ship with impossible precision. Their weapons fired faster than Crithian reflexes could ever respond. And worst of all, they fought with a terrifying coordination that suggested a single, controlling intelligence guiding every move. On the bridge of the human flagship, the Retribution, Captain Desmond Reeves watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. His weathered face showed no emotion as Crithian ships died by the dozens. He had been born in exile, as had his parents and grandparents before him. Every human alive had grown up on stories of the purge of the billions killed, of the homeworld they had been forced to abandon. "Status report," he said calmly. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied Lieutenant Rourke from the tactical station. "The Crithians are fighting exactly as the historical databases predicted. No adaptation, no innovation. They've grown complacent. They've had 10,000 years of being the apex predators," Reeves said, a slight edge to his voice. "That makes you soft. Executive Officer Chun, transmit the recall signal. We've learned what we needed. Sir, we could eliminate this entire fleet." Chun protested. "That's not the mission, Commander. We're not here for revenge. We're here to send a message." The 6 human vessels disengaged simultaneously, their jump drives activating with a distinctive blue-white flash. In an instant, they were gone, leaving behind the burning hulks of 73 destroyed Crithian ships and hundreds of confused, terrified survivors. Back in the Grand Communion Chamber, the High Council processed what they had just witnessed. Their greatest defense fleet humiliated. Their most advanced weapons rendered useless. And the humans had simply left, as if the entire engagement had been nothing more than a training exercise. "They're stronger than we ever imagined," Selvina observed, her consciousness flickering with deep concern. "Then we need allies," Mexinar decided, his thought firm and resolute. "Contact the Vorlon Collective, the Mesarin Republic, the Thune Confederacy, every major power in the galaxy. The humans are not just our problem anymore. If they've returned for vengeance, every species that participated in the purge is in danger." "Will they believe us?" asked Science Coordinator Zeftel. "Most species think the humans are nothing but a myth. Show them the battle recordings. Show them the casualties," Vexinar commanded. "Make them understand that the nightmare from 10,000 years ago has returned. And this time, they're ready for us." Across the galaxy, diplomatic channels burst into frantic activity. Ancient alliances were remembered. Emergency sessions were called. Military forces began to mobilize. The great galactic powers, who had spent millennia in relative peace, suddenly found themselves facing the prospect of total war against an enemy they thought long extinct. And in the silent darkness between the stars, the human fleet continued to grow. Shipyards that had operated in secret for 10,000 years now worked openly, tirelessly. Millions of vessels were being built, each one designed with a single, unwavering purpose: to ensure that humanity would never be driven from their home again. Captain Reeves stood before a massive holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. So many species. So many worlds that had forgotten Earth ever existed. Some had actively participated in the purge. Others had simply benefited from humanity's absence, growing rich and powerful in the vacuum we left behind. "They think we're back for revenge," he said quietly to his executive officer. "Aren't we, sir?" Sean asked. Reeves smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "No, Commander. Revenge is what you seek when you've lost. We're here for something much simpler. We're here to take back what's ours. Every world they stole, every resource they claimed, every piece of space they thought was theirs. The galaxy forgot about humanity. It's time we reminded them why that was a mistake." The Ghost Fleet continued its silent advance, and across 1,000 star systems, the galaxy trembled. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the stars. The war lasted exactly 317 days. Not because humanity showed any mercy, but because the galactic powers finally understood what their ancestors had known 10,000 years before. Humans didn't fight wars to win battles. They fought wars to ensure the fighting would never happen again. High Chancellor Vexenar stood in what remained of the Grand Communion Chamber. Its quantum matrices were shattered, its organic walls scarred by human plasma fire. Beside him stood representatives from 47 species, each one crushed by the weight of defeat. The Vorlon Collective had lost their entire merchant fleet. The Messaring Republic watched 3 colony worlds evacuated under human occupation. The Thune Confederacy signed their surrender after humanity demonstrated a weapon that could make stars go nova. But it was the humans themselves who shocked everyone most. They didn't demand extinction. They didn't seek genocide in return for the devastating purge that had cast them out. Instead, they offered something the galaxy had never seen before: conditional forgiveness. Captain Reeves, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, entered the ruined chamber. He carried no weapons and brought no guards. His hair had gone completely gray during the campaign, but his eyes remained sharp, unwavering. In his hand, he held a single data tablet containing the terms of peace. "You expected us to destroy you," Reeves said, his voice carrying in the silent chamber. "You thought we'd return as monsters, seeking revenge for every life lost in the purge. That's what you would have done, isn't it?" Vexenar's bioluminescence flickered with shame. He couldn't deny it. The Crithian response to the human return had been immediate extermination, just as it had been 10,000 years ago. "But here's what you never understood about humanity," Reeves continued. "We remember everything, every kindness, every betrayal, every species that stood with us, and every species that fired the weapons that killed our children. Some of you in this room participated in the purge. Others simply inherited a galaxy built on our graves. The question now is, what kind of future do you want?" He activated the data tablet, projecting the peace terms into the shared space. The conditions were surprisingly simple. Human colonies would be re-established in their original territories. Reparations would be paid, not in wealth, but in knowledge sharing and technological exchange. War crime tribunals would be held, but only for those who directly ordered civilian massacres. And most importantly, a new galactic council would be formed, one where humanity held permanent veto power over military actions. "This is incredibly generous," Diplomatic Minister Selvina said quietly, her consciousness genuinely puzzled. "After what we did to your species, why offer peace at all?" Reeves looked at her, and for the first time, something other than cold calculation showed in his expression. It was weariness, grief, the crushing weight of carrying 10,000 years of exile. "Because my daughter asked me a question before we left for this campaign," he said softly. "She's 7 years old, born on a colony ship in the darkness between galaxies. She asked me, 'Daddy, When we go home, will we be the monsters now? And I realized that's exactly what we'd become if we let revenge guide us. The species that killed us would be gone, replaced by their descendants who never fired a shot. We'd be destroying innocence just to satisfy our anger. He paused, looking around the chamber at faces that ranged from insectoid to crystalline to gaseous clouds held in containment fields. Every species was different, yet all of them wore the same expression: hope mixed with disbelief. My ancestors fought to survive, Reeves continued. They fled into the void to preserve what it means to be human. And what it means to be human is to learn, to grow, to become better than we were. Yes, we could burn this galaxy to ash. Our weapons could sterilize every world that participated in the purge. But then we'd be exactly what you accused us of being 10,000 years ago. Violent, barbaric, unworthy of the stars. Science Coordinator Ziftal stepped forward, her form shimmering with curiosity. What happened to you out there? In the darkness between galaxies? How did you not just survive, but become? This? Reeves smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. We had no choice but to cooperate. There were no external enemies to blame. No resources to fight over. Just millions of humans in ships, trying to keep civilization alive in the absolute darkness. We had to become better. We had to find meaning beyond conquest. We studied. We created art that took centuries to complete. We built cities inside asteroids and learned to find beauty in the void. We raised children who never saw a planet, but who understood that home is where your people are, not where you happen to be standing. Or Coordinator Vex Rim, who had lost 2 of his offspring in the war, spoke with a voice heavy with emotion. And now you return to find us unchanged, still fighting over territory, still building weapons, still fearing each other. Not unchanged, Reeves corrected gently. You've had peace, real peace, for most of the past 10,000 years. That's worth something. But you've also become stagnant, comfortable. You forgot that progress requires challenge, that growth requires struggle. Maybe that's what humanity can offer now. Not domination, but inspiration. He deactivated the tablet and placed it on the central platform. These are the terms. Accept them, and we begin a new era together. Reject them, and we return to the darkness, leaving you to your stagnant empire. But understand this: we won't come back again. The choice is yours, but it's also your last chance. The representatives looked at each other, their consciousness mingling, their thoughts exchanging across species barriers. Vexnar felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He thought of his ancestors, who had fired the weapons at Earth. He thought of the billions who died on both sides of the purge. He thought of his own grandchildren, who deserved a galaxy at peace. We accept, he said finally, not because you've defeated us, though you have, but because you've shown us something we'd forgotten. Mercy is not weakness. Forgiveness is not surrender. And the strongest species is not the one with the most weapons, but the one with the wisdom to know when not to use them. Across the chamber, other representatives voiced their agreement, some reluctantly, some gratefully. But all of them understood that this single moment would reshape galactic civilization forever. Reeves nodded slowly. Then let's begin. We have much to teach each other. Your biological technology, our materials science. Your quantum computing, our artificial intelligence. Together, we can build something neither of us could ever achieve alone. As the representatives filed out to begin the complex work of implementing peace, Salvina approached Reeves privately. Will your people accept this, after everything that was done to them? Some won't, Reeves admitted. There are humans who wanted revenge, who needed it. But most of us understand that carrying hatred for 10,000 years only makes you old, not strong. We came back to reclaim our place in the galaxy, not to become the very evil we fled from. He looked out through the shattered wall of the chamber at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, his daughter was waiting to hear if they could finally go home. Not to Earth, not yet, but to a galaxy where humans belonged again. "The void taught us something important," Reeves said quietly. "In the absolute darkness, you learned that the only light that matters is the one you create yourself. We could have returned as destroyers, earning everything in our path. Instead, we chose to return as builders. To light up the darkness, not add to it." Salvina's consciousness flickered with understanding. "The galaxy will never forget this." "Good," Reeves replied. "Because 10,000 years ago, they forgot us once. Let's make sure that never happens again." The stars watched as ancient enemies became reluctant allies, as weapons were decommissioned and converted to peaceful purposes, as human ships began landing on worlds they'd been driven from millennia ago. The age of fear was ending. The age of cooperation, however difficult and imperfect, was beginning. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, a little girl looked up at her father through a viewscreen and asked, "Are we the good guys now, Daddy?" Reeves smiled, finally at peace. "We're trying to be, sweetheart. And sometimes, that's all that matters." Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this. See you next time.